Hey, what's going on, model car and truck builders? Chris here. I had a question from a member, and I know I have covered this topic before. I feel like I even made a video about it before, but when I came looking for it, I couldn't find it. So I thought always a good time to brush up on some slicer skills. So I figured I would shoot another video on this topic for you, put it up here on our YouTube. If you want a ton more video tutorials on model car and truck 3D printing, go ahead and check us out at scalespeedgarage.com. The tutorials and the how-tos are just the tip of the iceberg there. We also have monthly new STL file releases for members, discounts from partner vendors, tools, downloads, a members area, like a members community for members of Scale Speed Garage, and a lot more. So check that out at scalespeedgarage.com. Today we are talking about how to support a body. And this is a topic where a lot of people have different ideas on how best to support a model car body for printing. But in our experience, we have found one way that is best, and it is kind of counterintuitive to what a lot of people will say about how best to support a body. So we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to play today with this Honda Civic sedan body from our friend Andre Bezrodny. So I'll go ahead and drop that in the slicer here. And we see this is just a pretty standard car body here. I believe this one's in 1/43rd scale. I'm actually going to see about scaling it up here. Let's see, 98 millimeters long. That might actually be in that's going to be in 1/43rd. So I'm going to scale this up by 180%. And that'll essentially bring us to a 1/24th scale body from 1/43rd. And so you see a lot of suggestions online for angling the car body, like this, or, maybe like that. But a couple issues that I have with that are that will introduce the possibility of getting layer lines or layer shift lines at angles that are really not natural for the body. And so this technique came to us from another Scale Speed Garage member, our friend Mike Northwind Customs, suggested this, and this is how we've been printing bodies ever since, and how we recommend that people print bodies. And we'll walk through that in a moment. But if you've ever seen, a lot of 3D printed bodies that you see for sale or that you see people print, you'll see these big, ugly layer shift lines running through the body. And I want to talk about why that happens first, before we go into the method that we like for supporting bodies. And so if we put a body on an angle like this, then what happens if I'm just going to go ahead and throw some automatic supports on this for now, and then we'll kind of run through the animation of the print layer by layer to kind of look at what I'm talking about here. But if you've ever seen a printed body that just has those big sort of seams or lines running through it, oftentimes at a weird angle, that's a result of what we call layer shift. And so it's important to remember that when we are printing anything, we are always concerned about the cross-section within any given layer, that cross-section of what that layer looks like, what that layer is printing, because all of that resin that cures in each layer has to pull off of the film in the bottom of the vat, right? And so there's the potential there with too large of a cross section for there to be a lot of suction force or peel force. And what can happen is, as that is peeling away from the film, that can actually kind of cause the model to shift a little bit. and create those layer shift lines that we talk about. Those are different than just the normal real faint layer lines that you might see if you're printing at like a 0.05 layer height, for example, where you see just the real faint layer lines. The layer shift lines are much bigger, much more noticeable to the eye. And we'll look at why those happen. So I was talking about cross-section here, and where you see those layer shift lines, if you look at a body that's been printed that has one of those layer shift lines maybe running diagonally through the body, look at where it starts and ends, and I guarantee you that you will almost always see it running as somewhere from an opening, like a wheel arch, where it runs like that, and then you would maybe have another one up here like that, or from window openings, right? So like where a window opening comes back together, you might see a line there, for example, or a hood opening, you might see one here. And those lines, even though they look like they're at a weird angle on the body, those lines are actually parallel to the build plate. And what's happening there is as we're printing, we start in our layers print, and then down here we see the very start of the front lower bumper, lower air dam starting to print there. And what you're seeing in white here is the cross section for this layer. That's what is printing of the actual model in each layer as we run up through this animation. And so you notice here, we get to a point now where we're further along in printing. The bumper has printed, and now you see that we have the beginnings of the rearward end of the wheel arches printing on the body here. But as that wheel arch continues forming, all of a sudden here, that wheel arch connects, and it fairly rapidly increases the cross section that's being printed. And so this is an area that would be susceptible to those layer shift lines. And then you'll see the same thing, starting with the rear wheel arches, but then also where the hood closes up here at the cowl. And then again at window openings as well. And so our goal is to always keep our cross section as consistent or changing as gradually as possible. In general with printing anything, but with bodies it gets a little unique because we're always going to have basically on any body you print, we're always going to have these areas where window openings close back up, wheel arches close back up, etc. And so I'm going to delete the supports here. And I'm going to go back to our layout here. After, of course, I delete all the supports. There we go. I want to come back to our layout here. So like I said, we are always going to have spots where on a model car body where these openings close back up. And so we're never going to completely eliminate the potential for layer shift lines, but we can do a few things that will give ourselves a much higher chance of avoiding them. And the first thing that I want to talk about is orientation, because we talked about how, if you print a body at an angle like this, if you do get a layer shift line, it runs at a really weird angle relative to the body. And so the first key that we use in laying out a body for printing is to actually print the body flat to the build plate. And the reason for that is if we end up with a layer shift line, we're going to try and avoid it through the next steps that we talk about. But if we do end up with a layer shift line, it's going to be more closely following the character lines of the body anyways. And so it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb, like a layer shift line running at a 30-degree angle across the body would. So that's key number one. But then the second thing is really just making sure that the body is adequately supported, both just in general to keep it on the build plate because it is, a fairly large item, but also supporting it in intelligent ways and sort of anticipating where those layer shift lines are likely to occur and adding extra supports there. So what that means is I'm going to put this thing flat to the build plate. And then I'm going to go back over to my support menu, turn off the layer preview there. And the very first thing I'm going to do is just select my model, and I'm going to generate a really high density of light supports. That's going to be what's doing the main supporting of our body. I like to run, for stuff like this, I like to run with the ultra density in Lychee. And I'm just going to generate automatic supports like we did previously, but this time keeping the body flat. And so we'll let it place those supports. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go in and beef up our supports in strategic areas. So the one downside that you're going to notice to this is that it is going to put a bunch of support marks inside, like on the underside, the underside of the roof of the car, for example. But we can generally go in with like a rotary sanding tool is a good way to kind of get rid of those support marks. All right, so now we have our ultra or our high density of light supports placed here. The next thing we're going to want to do is go in and support the bottom of the car in a few key places just to kind of anchor it down a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to each corner of the bottom of the body here. And I'm going to switch my supports over now to medium supports. And I'm going to come in and drop a medium support at each opening, each corner of the wheel arch openings. First thing, so I'll do that on the rear wheel arch there. I'll come around and do that on the front wheel arch here. And then on the other side as well. Let's see if we can sneak through there. Now I'm going to have to kind of flip it around. I'm going to come and put in another medium support here on that corner of the front wheel arch. And then here as well. Then same thing on the rear wheel arch. Then I'm also going to place a medium support at each corner of the body, all four corners of the bottom of the body here. Do the front corners now on the bottom of this front hair dam. And then I like to place one or two just kind of right towards the middle of each side of the body, front, rear, left, and right. And this is just going to kind of help keep this more solidly in place. So these extra medium supports are going to be our first sort of line of defense against those layer shift lines, because we're sort of more rigidly locking in the base of the body here. And then finally, our next step, we're going to go back to our layer preview tool, and we can use our support tools while we're using this layer animation here, which is really helpful. So I'm going to come to the first place where I anticipate having a layer shift line, which is right here where the wheel arches close back up. And I'm going to go just above that spot. And then I'm going to come in and place a line of medium weight supports all the way around the body at this spot. So I won't bore you with doing all of them here, but you can see I'm literally just going all the way around the inside of the body at this line or at this layer, and adding in supports just below kind of this layer, right where these wheel arches start to close up. You can also go a little bit lower to below that layer where they join up. But just kind of right in this area. And actually I like to do a little bit above that layer and a little bit below that layer. We can see that white ring all the way around the model. That shows us which layer it's acting on here. And so I'll just run that line of supports all the way around the body. And then once I've done that, then I'll start progressing further in my progression here through these layers. And now I've found the next spot where our cross section changes drastically, where the sort of rear of the trunk lid starts forming and the cowl at the base of the windshield starts forming. And again, then I'm going to come in and put another line of medium supports all the way around the body, right in this area. Then again, once I've done that all the way around, I'll do this again. I might actually come in now. You see now our rear deck lid is forming, and this is a major cross-section change happening here just over the course of a few layers. So this is going to be an area where we're going to want to come in and try and get some supports as well. This is a little trickier to see, but I'm going to come in with some medium supports here. And, place those kind of all the way around. This is more of a localized area here, not necessarily affecting the whole body. So I would just run a line of medium supports around here. And then, again, now we have a cross-section changing where it's opening up here. It's less impactful when it is the cross-section reducing versus when the cross-section is very quickly getting larger. But I would still say where these window openings start, go and put a handful of medium supports along the inside of the body in that area. And then back up here where the roof starts closing up, this is where the cross-section again starts increasing rapidly. So I would go ahead and place a line of supports around the inside there. Now you can see how dense our supports are here, and that is by design. Now the flip side to this is that this thing, once it comes off of the printer, fingers crossed, it should come off of the printer with 0 layer shifts and looking really good. But there is going to be some extra cleanup work that's going to have to happen on the back end. So first things first, getting this off of the supports, using some moderately warm water is going to make that job a lot easier. So run this thing under some moderately warm water in the sink after it's been all cleaned and dried. And that should help you sort of twist the body off of the supports, even those medium supports. But then, like I mentioned, you are going to have some cleanup of support marks on the inside here. I like my little Display rotary tool for that, with a like a Dremel sort of flexible sanding disc. Works really well for stuff like that. Also then, once everything is fully supported, I like to come through and see whether supports on the outside are really necessary. And I would probably come through and get rid of all of these supports that are just on vertical or near vertical faces of the outside of the body. I truly don't believe them to be necessary here. This trim piece here does have kind of a sharp edge and an overhang there, so I do think that the supports are going to be kind of important to have there, but we're going to make sure those are medium supports, and I might even come and support that up a little bit better so that doesn't get wavy during the print. But, you know, supports like this one, truly not necessary there, because we can see that while there is a little bit of a lip on the rear bumper there, it's a gradual transition to that lip. It's not a sharp edge there, so we can delete those supports. I also hate, one of the things I hate here is when Lychee seems to do this more than Cheeto Box, is like wraps supports around each other, basically. I'm going to leave these because these supports do look like they are supporting the bottom edge of that trunk lid. But just know that before you, if you printed this body, before you came in and tried to use warm water to soften these, you probably just want to come through with your clippers and clip these outer supports away. So you're not fighting against them, trying to get the body off of the supports. But yeah, just clean up unnecessary supports on the outside to save yourself some sanding and cleanup time on that. But that is kind of the overview here of how I like to support and orient and print model car bodies. I hope this was helpful. Again, if you want more tutorials like this, if you want access to the most detailed and accurate files available for printing, come check us out, www.scalespeedgarage.com. Till next time, catch you later.